I'll see you next time.
Fresh air. Nice.
So, where we headed?
Dunno.
You don't know? I thought you had somewhere in mind the way you took off.
I followed the smell.
What?
Smells nice. All naturey.
Just smells damp. And I think something bit me.
Hide!
Sky. Closest city that way is Palampolam. That is not good. I wonder if those two were caught in the net.
What do we do?
What do we do? Right now, what can we do?
Right. No choice. We run the other way.
Which would be to Nautilus.
As we set off, it was like he'd forgotten that I was still there.
So we're back to Sazh and Vanille. We're also back to this Let's Play. Or whatever this is. We're in Chapter 6 now. Vanille is the leader. Day 12. Taken. After announcing the discovery of the lower world being, the Sanctum instigated the purge. Before the Pulse Fal'Cie could be carried away and Sarah doomed to become a Seath, Snow had to get into the Vestige and find out what her focus was. If they could figure out Sarah's task, then maybe Lightning would finally believe them. With that plan in mind, the young Nora leader brought his fiancée back to the place she was branded. Things went horribly wrong, and only Sarah entered the Vestige as a prisoner of the Fal'Cie. Snow explained the situation to Lightning before rushing off to rescue his future wife. So, day 12 is when Sarah re-entered the Vestige in order to help figure out what her focus was. Which apparently, if this is right, day 7 is when Sarah told Snow, which means on day 3, that's when Sarah was actually branded. So this was the 9th day of being a l'Cie, which makes day 13 the 10th day. And on the 10th day, she turned into crystal and saw that all was good. The Sunleth Waterscape. Off limits to civilians, this unusual nature reservation is often visited by Sanctum officials engaged in ecological field studies. Research into the local ecosystem is conducted via climate control mechanisms installed in the area. These mechanisms provide direct access to the Fal'Cie in charge of manipulating weather conditions. So,
First things first, we need to clear these woods.
this is a nature area.
There's a sight I didn't want to see.
Stop complaining, Sazh. Unlike the previous chapter, or previous Sazh Vanille section, there's nothing back here. No secret item. But we do have some nice scenic environment. Sunleth Waterscape, which is a purely organic area, in contrast to the Galpra Whitewood, which was a more mechanical sort of forest. Very militarily minded. These paradigms are not carried over from Chapter 4, so we'd have to recreate them. First, let's take a look at the Crystarium. Vanille has 4 Ravager abilities, 2 Saboteur abilities, and 2 Medic abilities. I think I'm going to focus on her Saboteur first. We have Poison, and we have Quake. We talked about Quake in the previous chapter. It is a technical ability, which is why it appears in her Saboteur. It is not a Ravager ability, and as we see, it appears in her Saboteur tree as well. And it gives 26 seconds to chain duration, effectively maxing chain durations and helping maximize stagger duration. She also picked up Poison. Poison target and deal magic damage. The key thing being poison target. We saw poison in the previous chapter. It was what the Silver Lobos inflicted on Lightning and Hope. But now we can inflict it as a Saboteur if we want. However, it's just as effective as an enemy debuff as it is as an ally debuff. Poison actually does damage equal to... I'm probably going to be wrong with this number, but I believe it's 0.4% of max HP per second. Which effectively means that poison will kill in 5 minutes from max health with no outside factors. So if you inflict poison and you make sure it lasts long enough, it will kill in 5 minutes. It doesn't do too much for, you know, the heroes, or not the heroes, the party members if they're inflicted with poison, because 0.4% of 570 HP is like 2 to 3 HP, so you lose 2 to 3 HP per second. But imagine, say, Protoflorian, the boss from the previous chapter, who had... How much HP did he have? $129,600. If we could inflict poison on him, we would probably be doing about 500 HP per second damage. That would be a little more significant. Still, you know, 0.4% of max HP, but since the fight lasted over 2 minutes, poison could have done over 40% damage if we had inflicted it immediately. So it does benefit a little bit being able to inflict poison, but only on those extended fights where poison would matter. Oh, I did not unmute my mic, apparently. Whoops. Let me start over again. I'm going to read these descriptions. I'm going to look at these abilities and probably not get them. Sorry about that, people. Isuna removes target's most recently inflicted status ailment. Cura restores HP to targets in range. So Cura, like Phyra, is a multi-target healing ability. It heals multiple party members, and it's generally more effective than Cure. because it will hit multiple things, and generally when you have a raw ability, it benefits from hitting multiple things. And like Fyra, it costs 2 ATB instead of just 1, but it does heal for generally more. Isuna is like most Isuna abilities from previous Final Fantasies. It removes the target's most recently inflicted status ailment, only the one, so you would have to cast it multiple times to remove multiple debuffs. And it's certainly free. You can cast Isuna instead of throwing an antidote, say, in order to remove poison. There are some debuffs that you can only cure with Isuna. There are no equivalent items. And Cura can sort of function as a free potion. But again, it requires you to go into a paradigm with the medic roll, cast that ability, which costs ATB segments and therefore time, and once you're done doing whatever, go back to whatever paradigm you want to be in. So I don't think I'm going to invest in this unless I have nothing else to do. I will instead invest in the Ravager abilities, because generally Ravager abilities are nice to have. We have Aurora, deal wind damage to targets in range, tossing them up and drawing them in. Thunder, deal lightning damage to target. Overwhelm, boost chain bonus effect of attacks for each ally targeting the same enemy. Sazh already has Overwhelm. And Fyra, deal fire damage to targets in range. Staggered targets don't take more damage, but they take more chain. And those are all the new Ravager abilities for Vanille. You can also get her roll level, and that maxes out her Ravager. Her Saboteur. Yeah, I guess we can get all of these. They're up here. She has gained a roll level as a Saboteur. Remember that roll levels increase the efficiency or efficacy of the individual rolls, and the Saboteur roll level improves her ability to inflict debuffs. It makes them more likely to get inflicted. And she is currently maxed out as a Saboteur, so I guess with nothing better to do with this CP, we might as well spend it here. And that's all we can do because we're not able to afford that HP node. Now for Sazh. Was my previous Saboteur discussion also muted? Actually, no, it wasn't muted. I unmuted and then I talked about Medic. Sorry, I muted to cough briefly. And I forgot, or I thought I unmuted, but this button is fiddly sometimes. Sazh has 1 Commando ability, 1 Ravager ability, and 2 Synergist abilities. Let's get the Synergist ones. In Thunder and in Water. In Thunder, adds Lightning attribute to target's Calm, Rav, Sen, or Sab attacks. In Water, adds Water attribute to target's Calm, Rav, Sen, or Sab attacks. So, these give elemental affinities to abilities that were previously non-elemental. In particular, and the most useful use for this, it makes attack, blitz, and ruin, instead of dealing non-elemental damage, makes them do elemental damage of whatever affinity. So, in the previous chapter, we were trying to exploit fire or Fyra against enemies weak to fire. We tried to exploit Aqua Strike to targets weak to water. And we used Aqua Strike against Protoflorian. And we discussed how Aqua Strike was effectively dealing as much damage as a commando's attack, with the bonus of increasing the chain gauge. But imagine that we could have the commando's attack be water elemental, in which case we get the commando roll bonus, which would do double damage, basically. Slightly more for increased roll levels. And in addition, have the water element to this attack to also deal double damage to targets weak to that element, we can have commandos deal quadruple base damage, as opposed to simply double damage from commando or double damage from water elemental. We can double up on these effects. So these end spells are super important, and we will exploit them in this chapter as we can. Unfortunately, however, we are not leading with Sazh, we are leading with Vanille, and so we have to rely on Sazh's AI to cast these spells, which can take time. But once we have full control of a Synergist with end spells, we will really be effective in battle, in battles. Sazh has one Ravager ability. Let's take a look and see what it is first. It is Thunder. I'll go ahead and grab it just to have it. And I'll go ahead and invest in this. Oh, I guess it's already here. Here's Sazh's Quake in his commando role because it is a technique and not an ability. I guess technically it is a technical ability. Technical ability. Alright, so with nothing left to do, we got all the abilities. Oh, I guess there's the accessory slot. Over here. Can we afford that? I don't think so. But we are very close. We'll be able to get it pretty quickly. Vanille doesn't have an accessory slot yet. She is stuck to just her one. But Sazh can get his pretty soon. So Sazh and Vanille only with one accessory slot on their menus. So not too many choices to be made. I do like not having to use medics, so I will keep Doctor's Code. Sazh, however, is probably going to make choices here between strength and magic. I believe I'm going to start with magic, and if I'm going to use magic, I'm going to use the Den of Duelers, and we'll see why that is soon. For paradigms, without Vanille's medic, we have 2 rolls here and 3 rolls here, which means that if we really wanted to, we could have one of each possible paradigm. I'm doing this in a weird way. Those are the 6 paradigms that we could perhaps want to use. I don't really think Archmage is going to be too useful. I mean, it could be, especially while we're waiting for, like, in Thunder or in Water to be cast by Sazh, because we're very reliant on his AI. Actually, I might just stick with these. We lose the ability to ATB refresh effectively, but if we wanted to ATB refresh for Sazh's commando, we can still do that, so maybe this will work fine. I think I will lead with Undermine, though, because Saboteur can increase chain duration, and Ravager can chain, and the combination of Ravager and Saboteur is a really nice combination. Alright, so let's see what happens here. These are a new enemy.
You're gonna regret this.
Landragoras. They are immune to physical, meaning that you cannot do physical damage to them, and that is why I gave Sazh magic instead of strength, because these guys cannot be dealt physical damage. But they are weak to fire, and Sazh does have fire. You can also cast D-Shell on him. I believe Vanille also has fire. Yep. And so the combination of D-shell and fire damage helps to take these guys down. Now we don't have Endfire, otherwise I would probably try to use Sazh's Ruins instead. They dropped the Deceptisol, nice.
All this dampness is damp.
These frogs are a little different. I am going to go with the strike setup here. So don't be afraid to constantly change your equipment. It can be a pain, but different fights require different setups in order to really be most effective. Trying to get a setup that works in general tends to waste too much time. Now these guys are weak to Thunder. We could cast in Thunder, or wait for in Thunder to be cast, but they also have 513 HP, which is piddly. So instead of doing anything, I'm just going to shift to Slash and Burn.
Now you're talking.
And hopefully kill these guys fast enough. As you can see, the target time was 20 seconds, so in order to get 5 stars, you have to move pretty quickly. A reminder that battle ranking, star ranking, does affect how much TP you get back, and it does affect item drop rates.
You know, this place will make a nice picture.
Now I got the preempt here, but I didn't get Sazh set up with magic. Well, let's see if we can still pull this off. I'm gonna Quake, because this maximizes stagger duration. I have Sazh hopefully kill him off. He didn't kill him off. Now, AoE could be useful if they were close together. They were close enough together, but as you can see, they move around a lot, so it might not always be effective to use Fyra. This item ball has 8 vials of mysterious fluid. This fight is a combination of the hedge frogs with the Flandragora. I think I'm gonna open with a Quake again. Don't be afraid to be at 1 TP, it's easy to get the TP back.
Well, that wasn't scary at all.
Where's the weed killer when you need it?
Looks like we got another big group of frogs. So let's hopefully... Oh, we already have you Strength Spect because I forgot to switch you. And use Slash and Burn, hopefully. Start Sazh as a commando. These guys are weak to fire, so we could try to use Fyra.
Way to go, Sazh! Now you're talking.
Flandragora, so I'm gonna go with the magic setup. And I'm gonna start with Undermine. Preempt helps. 2 Flandragoras. Here we have an item ball containing a belladonna wand. Carved in the image of a poisonous plant, this weapon was once used to tame wild animals. It provides the passive ability Improved Debuffing, which slightly boosts the success rate of debuffing abilities. That's actually one of Vanille's most useful weapons. And this is the weapon to use, especially when you want to debuff, which is 95% of the time. So we'll equip her with the Belladonna Wand. And then clear up these exclamation points like I am wont to do. I think I forgot to check out... I believe the shop sells new things. Yeah. The shop now sells... Up in Arms now sells the Edged Carbine, the Deneb Duelers, the Power Circle, the Hawkeye, and the Pearlwing Staff. All of these are weapons we've picked up, but in case you want a duplicate, you can get a new one. Magical Moments now sells the Watchman's Amulet. We picked this up in the previous chapter, but now you can go ahead and buy it if you so want. Gremlins. We've seen gremlins before. They were in the previous, or chapter 4.
No daydreaming now. Take that. Take that. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Atta girl.
Well, that wasn't scary at all.
We got more Flandragoras, so I'm gonna go back to magic. Are we already? Yeah, we're already in Sab and Rav. Ah, we didn't get the preempt in this fight. These guys are easy to preempt, so as you've noticed, I've been trying to get the preempts when possible. Frequent paradigm shifting is Not something to be afraid of. Procyon. The unusual spin of the bullets fired from these pistols keeps targets off balance and vulnerable. It provides 14 strength, 9 magic, and the passive ability Stagger Maintenance. So it provides a little more strength than the Vega 42s, so if I want a strength setup, I'll probably go with the Procyon. It provides far less magic than either two weapons. The passive ability Stagger Maintenance says it slightly extends the duration for which enemies remain staggered. So this doesn't actually work most of the time. It's not a bug, it's just because of how stagger duration works. Stagger duration, as I mentioned previously, stagger duration caps at 45 seconds. Stagger Maintenance does not extend that. 45 seconds is still the cap. But if you stagger an enemy with salves, with Stagger Maintenance, and the stagger duration would not be 45 seconds, if it were like 10 seconds, then Stagger Maintenance would extend it by 10% to 11 seconds. So instead of a 10-second stagger, you get an 11-second stagger. Instead of a 30-second stagger, you would have a 33-second stagger. Instead of a 45-second stagger, you will still have a 45-second stagger because the cap is always 45 seconds. As the result, Stagger Maintenance is not as effective as it might sound because it does not extend the cap. Now, if it did extend the cap, it would be far more useful. If you could go beyond 45 seconds with Stagger Maintenance, we would certainly want to use that. But because it doesn't, I'm not going to bother. But I will probably use it for its strength until I have a better strength weapon. The difference is pretty negligible though at level 1, so...
Victor go the spoils.
So I should have switched to a strength setup. Which now with the Procyons, it can be a little more effective. Actually, I think we can go ahead and get this accessory slot now. Might as well max out the Synergist. You have all the abilities now, so the rest of this doesn't matter as much. But now we have 2 accessory slots. What will I want to use this accessory slot for? Well, you might think I could put the Magician's Mark there. But instead, I'm going to put HP on. Not that he really needs it, but because I can.
Again?
You're gonna regret this. Way to go, Sazh!
Atta girl.
Bye-bye.
This chest contains a doctor's code. We now have 2 doctor's codes. You might think equipping 2 doctor's codes will double the effectiveness of potions twice, but it actually doesn't stack. So why would you want to have duplicate doctor's codes? Well, you could sell one, or a better reason, you could dismantle it, which we'll do later.
There should be a dock on the other side of these trees.
Hey, Sazh. Tell me about yourself.
Huh?
Any family?
I have a little boy.
Oh, so you're married.
I was, yeah.
We gotta get you home. Your son needs you. Come on, we'll make it.
It's too late.
Is it the Lassie thing?
How'd you...
You might be a Lassie, but you're still a daddy.
You're right.
So, what's his name?
Dajh.
Hey, Dad.
Making a wish, huh? What'd you wish for?
Well, you're never happy. You never smile. So here's what I wished. I wish that you'd cheer up and be like your old self again.
How about that?
Whoa.
Your wish came true.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, it's my turn to wish.
What for, Dad?
That's my little secret.
Sazh,
Huh?
you all right?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Pops. You really got to keep it together, okay? Now, let's go.
Now I got kids looking out for me. Some dad I am.
Avoiding encounters. A powerful scale beast awaits you ahead. It could be a difficult fight for any two people. However, this enemy is slow on its feet, meaning you can easily avoid the encounter if you so desire. You will face many harrowing challenges as you press on. When you feel your enemies may be too strong, avoid them. We haven't been doing that in this playthrough, but I have pointed out that you can dodge enemies, so it's funny that it does so in Chapter 6 now. Scale beasts are actually pretty difficult to be able to take down effectively.
Would you look at that view?
You can easily get a preempt on one. I'm actually going to start divide and conquer. But let's take a look and see first. Whoops. He halves a bunch of elements, he's immune to a bunch of elements, he has 37,000 HP, a stagger point of 115%, a chain resistance of 95, which is pretty big. Status immunities are now becoming relevant because we do have a Saboteur in the party. We haven't really been talking about those, but we do have D-Protect, D-Shell, and Poison now. We don't know about Deep Protect and D-Shell, those are the left two question marks, but he can be inflicted with poison. I'm gonna shift here though. And instead of doing anything else, I'm gonna Quake. I'm gonna go ahead and run a gamut of spells. He can be Deep Protected and D-Shelled, and holy crap, his elementals changed. He's now weak to fire, thunder, and water, and he has a bunch of other stuff. Well, that's interesting. We do have end spells. Look at Sazh casting end spells now. And so because of those end spells, Sazh can do significantly more damage.
Follow my lead, Pop. Take that. Take that.
He in fact died to poison damage. So thanks to the preempt, the end spells, and a bunch of other factors, we were able to kill him in one stagger. Without the preempt, it would be very difficult to get him staggered because of his high chain resistance. Let's try that again.
Show 'em how it's done. Nice time. Keep up, old man. Change is good, Pops.
So you might wonder if waiting for Sazh to cast Bravery on himself would be worth it. Let's investigate that. That chest had 15 iron shells, by the way. I'm gonna go and start in a Paradigm Tide Turner. So that Sazh starts buffing faster. I do want to get a preempt though. Well, actually no, let's fight him straight up and see how this changes things. In fact, let's do everything entirely wrong and start off by getting all the buffs. And see how that changes things. Sazh, unfortunately, is deciding to cast spells on him for last. Or save casting them for last. And the buff that I want, which is Bravery, he's waiting until very last.
Change is good, Pops. Take that.
I can use Quake in non-preempt fights in order to help with getting Chain. Now you see I couldn't get debuffs to land. That's because he actually has massive debuff resistances until he's staggered. Now that he's staggered, actually I want to get the end spells. Notice that Sazh won't cast end spells unless he knows there's a reason to. So much like how Ravagers will stick to elements that the enemy is weak to, Synergists won't cast end spells unless there is a known weakness that can be exploited. They won't even bother casting it otherwise. Bravery does increase his damage, but is it worth it?
Change is good, Pops.
I mean, we still won Obviously the fight took longer because we didn't get the preempt, but we waited so long for Sazh to get bravery on him that we could have just ended the fight faster. My verdict is no, it's not worth it. But when you get the preempt, it will be worth it to get end spells. And this way we can take down the Skull Beasts in 44 seconds instead of 2 minutes. Alright. You could have dodged those enemies, or you could have fought them. Libroscope in this chest. Fighting some more gremlins. These guys are weak to arrow, and I do have an Aurora spell, but it costs 3 ATB. Is it good?
Bye-bye.
Well, add a visual effect. I don't know. So Aurora, unlike the other Raws that we've seen, Fyra takes 2 ATB. Aurora takes 3. There is a description difference here. Fyra deals fire damage to targets in range. Aurora deals wind damage to targets in range, tossing them up and drawing them in. Now, if Vanille had Vigilance, this might actually have the effect of tossing them up and drawing them in. So let's see if we can get that going. I believe the next fight's also gremlins. Although I don't think Sazh is going to start with Vigilance. He's going to start with in Thunder because these guys are weak to Thunder. He's not even casting Vigilance, he's casting Faith. There's the Vigilance. Nope, didn't work. Well, that's what it looks like when they do get lifted, at least. When enemies die, at least they do the effect that you would like to see them do. But certainly that didn't really seem too worth it. Now, because Aurora has the secondary effect of tossing enemies up and drawing them in, whatever that means, it does cost 1 extra ATB gauge. It doesn't necessarily mean that Aurora is strong enough to be worth it. It is actually, like, the attack itself is a little more powerful than Fyra, but I think it doesn't, like, it's still not as effective. Like, 3 arrows would do more damage than Aurora. 3 arrows will do more chain than Aurora. Aurora does also benefit from the post-stagger chain increase that Fyra has. But generally, you don't really see people using Aurora for chaining purposes. You don't even see people using Aurora that often. But it is fun to say. Anyway. They were guarding this chest, which has 10 scaled wings. Got more gremlins that this time we preempted. And actually, because we got the preempt, we could use Aurora and see what happens. Well, it kills them again, so it didn't really do anything. Notice how much TP we get back in that fight. In fact, we got enough to pay for the Quake that we just used. If we take a look at Gremlin in the intel, it's level 14. The level of an enemy influences how much TP you get back in fights. If you fight higher level enemies, you get back more TP. Gremlins are level 14, so you do get a significant amount of TP back. You might have noticed when we fight a boss, such as Aster Protoflorian, we got back almost all our TP, if not all our TP. That's because Aster Protoflorian is level 59. The higher level accounts for more TP recovery. Some of the other enemies we've seen, the Scale Beast is level 11, so it does give back some TP. You're only fighting them one at a time though, as opposed to the Gremlins. In that previous fight we were fighting like 6 Gremlins at level 14, so effectively in terms of TP regen, we were fighting an equivalent of a single level 84 monster. The Hedge Frogs are level 13, fighting them in groups will also help with getting TP back. Flandragora is level 8, so it gives back less TP than the other enemies. So, something to consider. Right, we were just investing in her medics because there wasn't any other purpose here. So now we got those abilities for her. Sazh probably should get roll levels, so I misspent his CP earlier. Because he doesn't have a commando roll level yet, but he could get the Ravager one, but we're still a little short of that.
You look tired. Not enough sleep?
I guess.
Not surprising. Cute girl like me. It's hard to close your eyes, huh?
I'm just gonna lie down for a bit.
Being made of the sea, it's not easy. I mean, look. Even I'm kind of worried. But even if we don't know what'll happen, we have to keep our dreams alive. Have something to look forward to. You know?
Next stop is Nautilus, City of Dreams.
Yep. What? Sazh?
This section of the game is actually sort of interesting. So we just do this, and then we do this. Nautilus. Centered around the ever-popular Nautilus Park, the City of Dreams is essentially a giant fairground built by the Sanctum for the amusement of Cocoon's citizens. Tourists visit from all corners of the world, keeping the city busy and bustling all year round. But if you take a look here, you notice that this is Vanille Solo. If you go in your paradigms, we have a Ravager paradigm, we have a Saboteur paradigm, and if we really wanted to, we could have a Medic paradigm. This is the only sections of the game where you can have the Saboteur paradigm and the Medic paradigm, as opposed to the Saboteur role and the Medic role. Now, because this is Vanille Solo, you wonder if there's things we can do with this. Like, can we backtrack and fight enemies Vanille Solo if we wanted to?
Oh, you're right. We gotta find Sazh.
The answer is no, you can't. Could you perhaps say, screw Sazh? We don't need Sazh. I know Sazh is over there. Can we see Sazh? Yep, Sazh is over there. Screw Sazh, we're gonna beat the game without Sazh. Nope. The Chocobo says no.
You don't want to leave Sazh behind?
So, it's kind of interesting. This is basically an interaction between cutscenes for no real purpose, but hey.
Sazh,
You scared me.
what's up?
I'm just thinking.
Don't blame yourself. You know, you can't control who FLC picks for a focus.
My son Dajh. He was picked. He's a Lassie. He said he wanted to see a foul sea, so I took him to go on a tour of the Uriday Gorge plant. Thought I'd surprise him with a chocobo chick to take home, but the second I turned my back, into the energy plant he went.
Dajh! Dajh, come out here! Dajh! I know you're in here! Dajh! Where are you? Say something! Dajh! Hey, what's wrong? Dajh!
Daddy.
It's all right. You okay? You're not hurt, are you? What's that? Apparently, those post-Lassie had snuck in and tried to attack the Sanctum Fal'Cie. It did the only thing it could and made Dajh a Lassie to protect it. My son, he got picked by a Sanctum Fal'Cie. He's a hero. But we're post-Lassie. Dajh's enemies. Psycom showed up right after that to take custody of him. And then, it was one test after another. Even then they couldn't figure out his focus. Maybe it was look for post-Lassie, maybe it was kill him. Either way, how could a kid that young even stand a chance? After he was made a Lassie, Dajh had some way of sensing things from Pulse. He was the one who found the post-Fal'Cie. But the kid can't fight. So, that's why I put myself on the train to Purgeville. I figured his focus had to have something to do with destroying that post-Fal'Cie. Thought I could do it for him, and, well, you know the rest. If I was right about his focus, he's probably a crystal already. Of course, if he was supposed to take out that thing's l'Cie, then either we die, or he's a Seath.
Die? Really?
It's a pickle, all right. But the bird says no.
Oh boy. Some updates here because that was a pretty tragic revelation. Sazh Katzroy. A trained civilian airship pilot, Sazh has been raising his son alone since the untimely passing of his wife almost 3 years ago. His son Dajh became a Sanctum l'Cie during the Uriday Gorge incident. Without a clear focus, the little boy will eventually turn into a monstrous Seath. Guessing that Dajh's task could be to destroy beings from Pulse, Sazh boards the Purge train as part of a plan to take care of the fal'Cie himself. His self-appointed mission ends with him becoming a Pulse l'Cie, an existence that puts him into conflict with his son's existence as a Sanctum servant. How tragic. He wants to save Dajh, who is a Sanctum l'Cie. And remember that, you know, there's a difference between Pulse l'Cie and Cocoon l'Cie, although I guess it's called Sanctum l'Cie. There's a difference between these two types of l'Cie. Dajh is sort of a good guy l'Cie, except he's here because of the Pulse l'Cie, and he became a Pulse l'Cie himself. Man. Dajh Katzroy. Dajh is a boy who loves his father and chocobos unconditionally. Though his mother passed away 3 years ago, he remains a cheerful and energetic child. When Sazh lets him out of his sight for a moment during a trip to the energy plant, Dajh is caught up in a Pulse incident that leaves him a Sanctum l'Cie. Now with the ability to sense power of Pulse origin, the little boy involuntarily discovers the fal'Cie and the Bodum vestige. With his focus still unknown, Dajh faces eventual transformation into a Seath. We also have Jill Nabat. She wasn't actually given a name yet, but this is Jill Nabat, a SciComm officer who graduated at the head of her class and attained the rank of colonel with unprecedented speed. As the supervisor in charge of the investigation at Uriday Gorge, as well as Dajh's testing after the boy became a Sanctum l'Cie, Jill is well acquainted with Sazh. She lent an ear to the distraught father and listened to all his fears and doubts. This photo is actually taken from the FF8 remake, and this is in fact Quistis. Anyway. Oh, there's more people. There's a Chocobo chick down here. Sazh purchased this Chocobo chick at a stall at Uriday Gorge for his son Dajh. However, while his attention was on the transaction, Dajh ran into the energy plants and headlong into the incident that changed him into a Sanctum l'Cie. Though boy and chick have met only once during the brief visit Sazh was allowed by SciComm and Bodum, they became fast friends. Dajh is trying to decide on what he wants to call the chick, but for now the Chocobo remains nameless. The 13 days have gotten significant updates. Day 5, Contact. Sazh took his son to the Uriday Gorge energy plant after Dajh begged to see one of the Sanctum fal'Cie. While Sazh was busy buying a Chocobo chick at the souvenir shop, the little boy ran off into the plant alone. Moments later, a strange phenomenon rocked the building. When the panicked father rushed inside, he found his son unconscious, lying on a bench. The energy plant fal'Cie, Kujata, had branded Dajh with the mark of a Sanctum l'Cie. Day 8, Questions. After being made into a Sanctum l'Cie, Dajh was taken into custody by SciComm and subjected to a battery of tests. Colonel Nabat, the supervising officer, next imparted some unsettling news to Sazh. His son had gained the ability to sense the presence of Pulse beings, but his focus was still unknown. Without a defined focus, the boy was doomed to become a Seath. Could his task be to discover lower world invaders? To destroy them? Saz's mind raced as he tried to figure out a way to save his son. And day 11, father and son. Dajh suddenly decided that he wanted to go to Bodum. Realizing this may be an effect of the boy's new power to detect pulse beings, Colonel Nabat permitted a Psycom-supervised excursion to the coastal town. It was the night of the fireworks show, but Saz's mood was not lightened by the beautiful display. The smiling face of his son, oblivious to the fate that awaited him, was more painful than the troubled father could bear. So, as we see, every single character had a purpose at the I think I called them this Palimpolum. I meant Bodum, the Bodum Fireworks Festival. Except for possibly Vanille, I'm noticing there's a distinct lack of Vanille story here. All of this has to do with, well, principally Snow and Lightning and Sarah, and indirectly Hope, and sort of very directly, although not known until now, Dajh. In fact, Dajh is very directly responsible because it seems that Dajh being branded a Sanctum Lassie led to the discovery of the Pulse Fal'Cie inside the Pulse Vestige, which prompted the ordering of the Purge, which led to the death of Nora, which led to Hope's desire for vengeance against Snow, and, well, everything that's been going along with that. It seems like this is the catalyst of everything, except this is day 5. Uriday Gorge is located near the town of Bodum. The area is best known for its energy plant, a facility whose output is generated by the Fal'Cie Kujata. Many school students could be found visiting the plant to learn about the role of Fal'Cie in society, but the gorge also sees a large number of tourists who come to view the spectacular scenery. 8 days prior to the Purge, there was an incident at the plant involving Pulse Lassie, but the details were suppressed to prevent civilian panic. Cocoon Society, Sanctum Lassie. During the War of Transgression, a number of warriors were made into Lassie to engage the forces of Pulse alongside the Sanctum Fal'Cie. Since that time, there is no record of a Cocoon Fal'Cie taking a human as a Lassie. It is possible that there have been unrecorded cases, but even if that is so, any and all accurate information about the nature of Sanctum Lassie has been lost in the intervening years. Even Sanctum researchers have been able to achieve no more than speculation. And more importantly, chocobos! These large yellow birds were always crowd favorites. Wild chocobos are almost unheard of on Cocoon, but thanks to the antics of a certain TV program's feathery main character, owning chocobo chicks has become the latest fad among children. Although the tiny chicks are easy to handle when young, their rapid growth as they approach adulthood has forced an increasing number of families to donate their oversized avian pets to zoos and farms. And then, the Fal'Cie Kujata. The task of this Sanctum Fal'Cie is providing Cocoon with the power its advanced urban population demands. From the plant at Uriday Gorge, it sates the voracious energy appetites of surrounding cities. 8 days before the Purge, Kujata detected a Pulse Lassie presence near the plant and took emergency defensive action. Hoping to use a human instrument to search out the enemy Lassie, the Fal'Cie branded Saz's son Dajh, who had wandered into the facility, turning the boy into a Sanctum Lassie. So, all that's just background in addition to the exposition on Dajh and the revelation of Dajh being a Sanctum Lassie.
What is that? A device that makes bad weather. play in the rain, did you? Isn't that adorable?
I like the synchronized shrug there. Climate control orbs. These spheres modulate precipitation levels in the surrounding area. Certain indigenous fauna exhibit rain-shy behavior, taking cover during storms. However, inducing showers can result in encounters with otherwise elusive hydrophilic wildlife. So, this device here actually controls the weather and changes it between sunny and rainy. A mechanic that would be amazing, but is actually exclusive to this region. And the text did hint at the fact that different enemies spawn based on the weather. For instance, we see a new enemy up here. Let's see, we are currently set up strength spect. Let's start here. And see what this guy does. He's a mud frog. Weak to fire, thunder, arrow like his allies, but he has way more HP, over 9,000 as opposed to 500. 40 chain resistance is pretty low though, so we can take him out pretty easily. In fact, within Thunder, Sazh can just one-shot the hedge frogs. So these weather balls can let us change the weather from rainy to sunny, but I'm actually going to wander around and fight all the rainy enemies. Then I'll change the weather and we'll fight the sunny enemies. Ooh, courtship dance. That attack actually summons hedge frogs. Well, we got them killed before they could summon, but that's something to watch out for. We have a scale beast here together with gremlins. This could be problematic. So you can see how difficult it can be to get this guy staggered with the 95 chain resist. You can also see how powerful that shocking breath attack is.
I appreciate it.
There's actually something we can try to do, but I'm not sure it's going to work so well. Yeah, I didn't really get it. You can use Aurora to launch an enemy and then have allies keep it locked up in the air. It's sort of a launch. Different than the Commando's launch, but it does launch an enemy and you can keep them in the air, which will stop them from doing things. These enemies were guarding a metal armband. More mud frogs. No preempt this time, though. Alright, so now the courtship dance you see summons new enemies. We have another scale beast with gremlins. This one we can actually preempt from this side. So Quake isn't normally used for damage, but I think if I do one more Quake, I can actually kill off the gremlins. Yeah, and all the gremlins are now dead. So I'm actually going to try to get this launched thing. Nope, didn't work. Unlike the other fight, they aren't guarding anything. That was just for completion. Didn't get the preempt this time. just want to use Aurora and have something exciting happen, and I've yet to figure it out. There's a new enemy in this group. Actually going to start here, I think. Garchimasira, who is another stronger version of these related enemies. Similar to the gremlins, except he has a lower chain resistance, interestingly, and a lower stagger point, so he's easier to stagger. He's also weak to fire, thunder, and arrow, but he halves magic, and that's really the only other difference. See, we can already get him staggered. This is probably a good time to point out that status infliction chances are also affected by the chain gauge, and so getting an enemy staggered makes it easier to get debuffs inflicted. Here I can use Aurora. Sazh within Thunder can one-shot the hedge frogs. They're not really an issue. But yeah, status inflictions are affected by the chain gauge, and so a higher chain percentage can make debuffs more likely to land. So in this fight, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to try to... Well, I'm not open with Quake, actually. I'm going to get debuffs. Or, not debuffs. I'm going to get buffs on Sazh and Vanille. Because I'm going to utilize conditional modifiers to help stagger the Scale Beast faster. Turns out there's conditional modifiers based on the number of buffs your Ravager has. Which are very effective against targets with high chain resistances. As you can see, we've been working pretty well on getting the Scale Beast staggered this time. Whereas last time it was a pain to get staggered. Tried to get him in the air, but he didn't stay. So in one of my first Scale Beast fights, I said, you know, it wasn't really worth waiting for Sazh to cast Bravery, but it actually was sort of worth it, because it made it faster to stagger. I'm utilizing Quake to get better chain duration and therefore a better stagger. And they were guarding an item. They're guarding an aqua ring, which we've not seen before. It increases water resistance by 20%. Got more of these enemies. Archimasiras and a scale beast. You can see the Garchimasira actually has a stronger kind of attack than the Gremlins. You can cast the Raz that hit multiple things. Don't be afraid to use Quake. That should be the last of the scale beasts, thankfully. But we do have more of these guys up here. Almost. So you can see that even though I've been using Quake a lot, I still have 2 TP, and that's because the 2 leftmost technical points are really easy to get back. This is to encourage you to use TP because it's so easy to get back to 1 to 2 TP. Here we have a preempt, thankfully. Just helps with this fight. going to get an end spell on Sazh here. Unfortunately, Sazh won't be blitzing. But we managed to kill them before they summoned any frogs. And that wraps up this section, but for completion, I'm going to change the weather to sunny and fight all the new enemies. Because there are some new ones that pop up. Notice that we haven't seen any Flandragoras. Those are apparently afraid of water. So presumably changing the weather to sunny will bring out Flandragoras, at the very least. Are there any other possible enemies that we could encounter? I'm gonna run all the way back to the front. I'm not gonna fight these enemies a second time though, because we've seen them before. I think. Yeah, we can just do this. I do mean I'm gonna run all the way back. Not to the start of the chapter though, because there's no new enemies over there. Actually, I do wonder, I think the weather... when you try to leave... That's an interesting graphic effect around the trees. When you try to go back, they just set the weather to sunny. I was wondering if you could go and see rainy in previous sections. Well, apparently we still have gremlins and Gargimasiras in sunny. This is a new enemy. He looks like a Garuda, but he's a wyvern. He is weak to fire, weak to arrow. Unfortunately, we don't have in fire. He is normal to physical, so we want to use physical abilities. He does have a somewhat low chain resistance. Stagger point at 200. He's susceptible to poison, whatever that means. And he seems to be able to interrupt us, so I probably want vigilance. He can also cast Deep Protect on us, which is pretty scary. And that is super scary.
I'm sorry.
He casts Deep Protect, and then he uses Bite on the target that has Deep Protect for 580 damage. So how can we possibly deal with this guy? Well, we can't cure Deep Protect with an item, but we can cure it with a medic. So believe it or not, we're going to have medics. I know, right? I'm going to be using a medic? But this will help tremendously with in casting Deprotect. I do still want Vigilance though, because his attacks do interrupt. Alright, there's the Deprotect. I can cure it with Isuna. You want to Isuna rather than Leda. Oh, and we now both have Vigilance. But now I do want Bravery on Sazh. Now that did only 298 damage, thankfully. There's the poison. I think we want to have Sazh not use Ruin. And that takes him out. He doesn't give too much TP though. What was his level? He's level 9, so he doesn't give as much TP back as a Gremlin does. Can we max out our Crystarium at this point? Seems so. Yeah, we're maxed on all. So there's not much we can do to boost our stats further other than upgrading our weapons and accessories. Got more of these Flandragores. They do appear in Rainy. Can you get the preempt on these? And over here are more Flandragoras. I think I don't need Quake. Indeed, we don't. So that's all the sunny enemies over here. Got another wyvern over here. Ah, lost the chain. If you throw potions as a medic, it actually heals for extra. Oh, I forgot to give Sazh strength setup. Now we have a wyvern together with a Garchimasira. I can use Kira here to show how it works. Generally less effective than a potion. The time spent healing could have been time spent doing other things. He's weak to fire. I don't know why I'm using Thunder Fire. I'm finally going to change to a physical setup. Didn't get the preempt. And then we have more Flandragoras, so magic. With a preempt, so it's super easy. Alright. Want to be physical again. Ow. So now with the higher chain gauge, we can get poison landed more easily. And then we have these enemies to wrap things up. And then once more. And we can go physical. These enemies aren't too hard unless they all spam spells. Alright, those are all the enemies that you can fight in that section. I hope you enjoyed fighting them as much as I did. You might notice that I'm running low on potions. I have not bought any potions in this playthrough, and I've lasted through most of Chapter 6. So don't be afraid to use potions in your playthrough, because they will last for a long time. They are more valuable early on. And furthermore, they are really cheap to reacquire. I can buy 20 more potions now for just 1,000 gil, and I'll be good for another while. Coming up is a boss fight. I'm going to start in this paradigm for reasons. Actually going to change this into a different paradigm, also for reasons. Let's see how this goes.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not good.
What do we do?
All right, I got it. We sneak.
Right.
Just too much to ask to cut me one break, isn't it?
Come and get it!
So, we have Enki, and we have Enlil. And Enlil is capable of inflicting Deep Protect. In fact, both are capable of inflicting Deep Protect. I'm going to throw Librascope, because I want to save my TP for something else, maybe. You see, they have about 145,000 HP in between them. They have the same chain resistance of 65, stagger point of 150%, and they have conflicting elemental affinities. Enki is weak to thunder and immune to water. Enlil is immune to thunder and weak to water. They are both susceptible to poison and capable of inflicting Deep Protect, much like the wyverns we were just facing. But they both employ powerful either lightning or water-based attacks. Notice that when I threw the Librascope, the entire intel screen is revealed. So if you want full enemy intel, you can throw a Librascope. I threw it in this case because, well, I want to have elemental information. Because notice that one is weak to thunder, one is weak to water, and we happen to have both in thunder and in water, and only those two. So thankfully we can exploit this information and have Sazh, a Synergist, cast the corresponding end spells. Also, I started as a medic so I can heal us of the Deep Protect inflictions. Might be tempting to want to stick here, but I'm going to actually progress and do something else. It's actually not too hard a fight once you have everything in your favor. However, now at this point in the fight, we want to make sure that Enki doesn't get an attack off. Otherwise, he removes all of his debuffs. But we pulled it off. Oh no, I got protected again. Ow. Well,
I'm sorry.
should have thrown a potion. Remember I said this fight wasn't too hard? Turns out any fight can kill. But both enemies follow a similar pattern. But when one dies, the other one does start attacking faster to make up for his lost friend. That's not what I wanted to use. Alright, get the protect off. And then he can stay alive more easily. So what I'm doing here is a stun lock tactic. If I let them get off their next attack, they become more powerful. But thankfully, we're strong enough to overpower them. We get a Riptide ring and a Fulmin ring from that fight.
Skip and a jump, and we're in Nautilus.
The city of dreams.
If only we were dreaming up those clouds.
Oh, we did get any intel. So the Riptide ring increases water resistance by 25%. The Fulmin ring increases lightning resistance by 25%. We can see that these are more powerful versions of the Aqua ring and Spark ring, respectively. These are actually the tier 2 accessory relative to these tier 1s. Now, this does mean that in terms of safeness for the future treasure achievement, you could sell the Spark ring and the Aqua ring and not get locked out of the achievement, because the Fulmin Ring and the Riptide Ring can be used to get to Tier 3. There is, in fact, a Tier 3, and the Tier 3 is not achievable in any other way other than to up to max and catalyze the Tier 2. But I'm going to hold on to all of these because they are very limited, and I don't want to lose the limited time goods. I'm going to remove accessories. You might imagine why. And of course, the next stage, the Crystarium, was unlocked. These nodes are costing 400 CP for Vanille and Sazh, but they don't seem to really give anything. That is actually a pretty important ability there. I'm going to talk about it when it becomes relevant, though. But I'm going to go ahead and finish off the chapter.
We can board the ship over there. Huh?
Oh.
When it rains around here, it pours. And then it rains some more.
Sazh, do you hate Pulse?
Why wouldn't I? Look at this mess it's gotten us all into. Of course, it's not to say I always hated it. Seemed fishy. All that Sanctum ranting about the threat from Pulse. Only a matter of time before they strike. Pulse is infested with monsters. Scare after scare. Not even a shred of proof. Tired old cynics like me? We don't just swallow that tabloid crap. No, not me. I figured the Sanctum was up to something crooked. At least until I got dragged in.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, all this purge business, it really only happened because Dajh found that Pulse Fal'Cie.
You're wrong.
Huh?
Don't blame him. It was all...
Yeah, you're right. It was that scum from Pulse behind it.
I might as well have tried to stop the rain. I fought the tears, but they still fell.
You're getting soaked.
I'll be fine. It's only water.
All right. I do like the music in that cutscene, by the way. It actually times the cutscene perfectly well and ends precisely at the point where the cutscene has to end. It's one of the most fitting music to cutscene synergies in this game. This wraps up Chapter 6. We have finished Chapter 6, and in the future we will face Chapter 7. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you around later.